Let's do a Final Four forecast quickly here. I think that is the headline. Can anyone stop Connecticut? Can anyone stop this dominating steamroller that we have all been watching, grace our screens? It feels like the only way you can beat UConn is if you're a ranked team and they play you on the road. And that is not going to happen in the NCAA tournament. So you can just throw that out. And we got a fun matchup because Danny Hurley has to fight the demons of Bobby Hurley, because Bobby Hurley is the one who gave Nate Oates a chance to coach. There is a little bit of that subtle storyline in this Alabama-Connecticut game. Bobby Hurley is who hired Nate Oates away into the college ranks, and that is who started this, trend towards the top that Nate Oates is on right now. So they obviously have familiarity with each other. They obviously have this high school coach history. They obviously have this chip on their shoulder kind of attitude and approach that they have to things. They're also great in-game coaches and great at scouting other opponents. So this matchup between Alabama and Connecticut, I think, is going to be great. And I know the personnel will be interesting. There will be great storylines with Grant Nelson, Donovan Clingan. Let's see what happens with the bigs there. Pringle will obviously be involved with that matchup as well. But first and foremost, when you see Alabama-Connecticut, what comes to mind?
I think Alabama's going to have their best offensive game of the year, I would say. As good as they played against UNC, I think it's going to have to be. Would you agree with that? I think it's going to have to be that kind of output, because we know the baseline of what UConn is going to do offensively is going to be really steady and really high, because, Bama's been playing better lately, but I think the points in the paint for UConn are going to be so immense. I'll be interested to see how many threes UConn takes in this game, because they're not going to have to rely on it. For as much as everybody's three obsessed, the points in the paint for that, can Alabama bridge the gap between the steadiness of that by spreading them out, attacking Clingan off the dribble, the way putting Clingan, they're better at putting bigs in ball screen actions. I'm sort of drawing on the desk in front of me with my finger here, audio medium, but they're better at that than any other team in the tournaments in the field. So we'll see. That to me is the most interesting part of this matchup, and how patient is Sears against these. Defensively, UConn has shut these scores down in this tournament. So those are the things that I'm really, really curious to see. What about you?
Yeah, I think Sears is the real storyline. If Sears can go off in this game, and he has a nice kind of control about where he is right now, he seems very comfortable in the chaos. It seems like he's going to win the game. That was the funniest part of the Carolina game. As it was kind of wearing down, I'm looking at both sides and I'm like, Alabama looks like the blue blood right now. They look like the team that's supposed to be here, and they look like the team that expects to win this game. And Mark Sears has a lot to do with that. Same thing with Clemson late in that game. Every single time Clemson tried to make a run, Mark Sears was there to say, not so fast. So if he can have that sort of performance again against UConn, I think it makes it interesting. But like you said, they've been able to shut the water off, to use one of your terms that I like so much. They've been able to shut the water off when it comes to your star scorer, TJ Shannon, the latest example of that. So Mark Sears, we'll see if he can do something different. And if his mom has some sort of magic from the crowd where she can get him going, she has become a star in her own right. The second game, NC State, Purdue. These schools, they have a lot in common. Let me just say, from the clientele that goes to the school, from what they have to deal with IU and UNC being right next to them in the same state and having to deal with their fans, to being agriculture, technical schools. There's a lot to like.
I thought Purdue they're not as academically condescended to. I thought that was a great engineering school, right? Or is it just that IU is
NC State has a great engineering school. They really do. Yeah. It's actually maybe disrespected because you got the Duke and Carolina people are kind of telling their own narrative, but NC State's a good school, especially if you're going to engineering or architecture or anything like that. So that they have similarities in their schooling.
Social breakout we could do is where you and I break down the academic integrity. Let's get some professors on. Let's talk about endowments. Let's talk about research. Let's do it. These two, it's a little different, I guess. Maybe it's not. I think you're right. It's both of these teams are starved. These fan bases are starved. Purdue has a little more. I feel like NC State is still pretty playing.
They're playing with house money.
Yeah, they're loose. They're very loose. I was shocked at how loose they were in this game. Just unbothered, really. And we'll see how much of that lasts. I'm curious to see how much talk about shutting the water off. If you can look for the place where the most, if there's sort of a tree that, whatever they're called, the tree where things branch down, to see if you can shut that off. The most offense runs through Burns, how effective they are at being able to do that. And will Burns' craft work against Edey? Because I think they'll be able to single cover him, because I think Edey just has to keep his arms up. So I'm curious to see that.
I am too. I think this is going to be a fascinating matchup. I tweeted on March 16th that I wanted to see DJ Burns versus Zach Edey. I thought it was going to be an 8-9 versus number 1 seed. I did not suspect it would be in the Final Four. So I am very excited to see what it looks like. We love a battle of the bigs. And if you look at these 4 teams in the Final Four, there is a big that you mentioned this with Mike Woodson. I mean, there is a big that you can point to as a catalyst for why we're here. You know, whether it's Donovan Kling Kong, whether it's Zach Edey, who's going to be the National Player of the Year, whether it's DJ Burns, who has become the face of this March Madness run, or, you know, if it's Grant Nelson. I mean, if you're a Carolina fan, you think of Alabama, you think of that mustache, and you think of the Dakota Durant. So there is a big to be talked about in every one of these games. The first battle of the bigs will be DJ Burns versus Zach Edey. And I do think it is really cool that no matter what in the national championship game, we're going to see 2 good bigs go up against each other. And I think that's good for the sport. And this is going to be a really fun game. I think DJ Burns' conditioning in this game will be tested a little bit. I hope NC State can play in the half court. I hope they don't have turnovers that cost them in this game. But if they play loose and Purdue plays a little bit tight because they're on the stage and they're playing in a football arena and we're talking about depth perception and the other guys aren't hitting threes, there's a world in which I could see the Cinderella story continuing for NC State.
That's a really good point. The domes, circular. I like how you did that. We came all the way back to where we started. I love that we weren't in the domes. We're going to be in the domes. I wonder how the dome factor. I think we should dive into that more if we get a chance.
The dome factor is something that we will be talking about. One last thing I did want to hit here. The discourse has had a lot of conversation. There have been a lot of conversations when it comes to the college basketball tournaments that are going on, both the men's and the women's. And it seems like there is an either or discourse that is happening right now. And I just want to say we're a both situation here. I am watching both tournaments. I love that basketball is always on. They're not really, other than NC State fans who have had to watch their women's and men's team play at the same time, so I feel bad for them. Pretty much you can watch all of it and soak it in. So it is great basketball. I'm having a lot of fun. It is the best time of the year. You and I are going to be in Phoenix. Any last thoughts, Kyle, man, before you get out of here?
I think you covered it. Yeah, I'm jacked and pumped, ready to go to Phoenix.
KOC is going to be in Phoenix as well, speaking of guys that are jacked and pumped. So we're going to have a good crew there. Kyle Crichton, obviously, there as well. Very excited to be covering the Final Four. Excited to have you there for the Final Four. Do these shows in person. We're going to have some good times in Phoenix. And anyone that is out there, reach out to us. I know I'm going to have some NC State friends that are flying out, some family as well. So I'm excited about that, to have the NC State faithful in the building. I think Purdue fans are not ready for what they're about to see in that crowd. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We appreciate everybody tuning into One Shining Podcast, and we will be back later this week. We'll see you then.